Finding is the principal at Cecil Intermediate, and Cindy Carroll is the technology teacher at Cecil Intermediate and North Jefferson Intermediate. We share her.
Mark Emadanza, North Strabane principal, and I have Sam Greener with us tonight, and he also splits between my building and Bob's building for computer science. He was our librarian, and now he's our computer science teacher, and that's what we're here presenting tonight, talking a little bit about what we're doing.
Great.
So when we were talking about coding at the intermediate level, I just want to, before I get started, point out that Mrs. Laney was very instrumental in this, working with Dr. Emadanza and I last year in getting this up and running. So when Mark and I would talk and Mrs. Laney would talk, we needed to find a way to bridge the gap between the elementary and the secondary level. With the Code of the Future initiative at the elementary level and their epic builds, and then the classwork, the specific core content offered at the secondary level. Mark and I talked and collaborated. We found out we were both doing lots of really great things to kind of bridge those gaps, but at the same time, we wanted to do some things that were definitely consistent between both of our buildings to kind of make sure we were getting the kids prepared for middle school in the same way.
We both were using a variety of different tools, the Ozobots, drones, hummingbird kits, but we weren't hitting all the kids in both grades. Some teachers were using them more little than others, and like Bob said, Grace was instrumental. She got us a huge grant to do this, what we're doing at our school. If it weren't for the grant that she got, it was $20,000, $30,000, to get the resources, to get computers, to get tools, to get Sam and Cindy training. That would have never happened. So we're in the infant stages right now. So like they will tell you, there's a lot of training still to go. They're doing a lot of training on their own, learning on their own as they go. But it's with any program, you start small and you start building it up. And we have good support around us. And right now, what we're doing in our program at both schools is, it's like Bob said, coming from the Code of the Future program, kids are working on block coding. And so when they come to our level, they're continuing block coding because they're not experts. And then in their programs, they're working with HTML and JavaScript. And the two focus areas that they're going to talk about tonight is critical thinking and problem solving skills, which every kid needs as they go up through the 7 through 12 level. All right, so without
Cindy and Sam.
Hello.
Hey.
Be so kind to advance the slide first, please. So, as he mentioned, we had a training at the Allegheny unit. It was a 1-week training. We were very excited to go, very open-minded. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't very helpful. So, we have been teaching ourselves the program, but it is actually quite straightforward. So, it's overall very cohesive as far as for the teachers as well as the students. If you'd be so kind to look at our screen if you like. That's really what the kind of the lesson layout is, and then all those little ovals and circles and diamonds, all kinds of different shapes lead into different paths, and then those lead into different paths. So it's actually pretty deep once you get into it, but the flow is actually quite simple for the students to follow, and they can advance on their own. So for those who want to go a little bit faster, they can go a little bit faster, and for then the students that need a little bit more work, then we can guide them nicely with the accommodations that Code.org offers. So kind of first game. So they offer a bunch of offline activities, they're called, which Sam and I really like. So as Mark and Bob kind of mentioned, as far as the critical thinking and problem solving skills, that's definitely my forte as far as I love problem solving, because I think it's really the skill for life. And so instead of always just having their face in a computer, they have these offline activities that get them out and about and incorporate more kind of teamwork skills, which I also love, we also love. And kind of bond the students together, which is nice. A lot of classes you don't really kind of get that bonding, so that we're kind of all in this together. And especially as the philosophy of Code.org is about not everybody gets it right the first time, and especially in coding, it's about the debugging. So this was a relay race basically that they had to decode and then run to get their partner, and then kind of work as a team to kind of pass through it. So a lot of fun, and we really liked the beginning activities. Unfortunately, it was only in the first unit and only in the very beginning. So we look forward to incorporating a lot more of those throughout the curriculum, next time around. Be so kind. That's Officer Lee, obviously in the middle there. and the students doing another offline activity. If we had more time tonight, we would have liked to have thrown you into that one. I think that would have been a lot of fun. But they were making these aluminum boats that they had to make as many pennies float as possible. And the key again is that you don't get it right the first time. So not only did they learn from their own experience, but they got to watch everybody else do the exercise and then learn from that and then try it again, so that it wasn't.
When this was getting all planned, Cindy came in and she had some activity planned. I think she thought she had like 2 hours. So she was going to design some hands-on things.
Yeah, we had some
no, we have
stuff
like
for you,
10,
yeah.
12 minutes.
Cut it back.
She was very disappointed that we couldn't do the hands-on.
Couldn't do the hands-on with the pennies and the boats, yeah.
And thanks for helping with the pennies. We had lots of pennies. Those kids actually, what was the highest?
400 and something. Yeah,
For
400
a
some
piece of
pennies.
aluminum that big, as far as a piece of aluminum foil. So it really was a lot of fun. And we like that Officer Lee participates as well. That's kind of a fun combination. If you'd be so kind to advance one more time. Mr. G, Sam here conducts the computer science for both 5th and 6th grade. I only teach the 6th grade portion, so I'm going to turn it over to Sam. He'll do a song and dance for the 5th grade and the beginning of 6th grade.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we take the block coding from Code of the Future and expand on it with a little more advanced techniques. This may look simple, but it's hard to tell from this slide. Each flower has a different number of pieces of pollen they have to collect, so it's not as simple as going forward and collecting pollen. They have to code it in a way that it will collect different numbers every single time. And what you're looking at is called a nested loop. So it's a loop inside of a loop inside of a loop, and that takes a lot of critical thinking and problem-solving skills. By experience, for sure, because it's confusing to think, okay, I have to repeat this step, then make sure they both repeat at the same time. So it does take a lot of patience from them, especially. They have to really settle down, and I encourage them, if you need to take a breath and step away for a second, step away. So the critical thinking and problem-solving skills, they don't stop. It's something that continues on and on. Okay, Mike, you can do that one, please. And then we move away from the mazes and the do this, do that, do this, and move into, well, design what you want, but make sure it does certain things. So you're looking at a virtual aquarium that one of the students created, and they take a code that they have learned from the mazes and apply it to essentially, it's not a playable game, but a game where the fish can move around, they bounce off of each other, they can grow big and grow small, and change color and things like that. So we take those critical thinking skills that they learned and then make them do something from nothing. So where they're given a goal in the first one to finish this maze, now it's go ahead and make something with what you've learned. So it takes the problem-solving skills and saying that there's a lot of patterns up there. There's a lot of behind-the-scene things that they do with the sprites that we can't see, that they can. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, it says show the code. So while they are using blocks to code, they can then click on that and actually see the written script as if they were line coding in Java. So it's a really nice program that they have, and they don't realize what they're doing because it's colorful and it's fun, and but they're actually line coding more than they realize. We align our standards with the CSTA, and it's the Computer Science Teachers Association, and Pennsylvania is one of the states that has adopted the CSTA. I believe right now it's only 7 through 12, but we use them in our buildings as well to make sure that our standards align with what our state at least has deemed the most reliable set of standards. And code.org actually follows those as well. So they make it easy for us to look through them and say, well, this aligns with this, and so on. And this is what we work on in 6th grade. It's the problem-solving process. And it shows that you start with the definition of the problem, you prepare for the problem, and then you try. And if you notice, there are arrows going both directions. If you get to the try part and it didn't work, you got to back up to the prepare part and try again, or even go all the way back to define the problem. And maybe while you're defining a problem, you realize there's another problem I have to solve, so we got to go back again. So that is the basis of what Cindy and I do every single day, and it revolves all around the problem-solving process. Just an example of the HTML that the kids learn. They learn all the blue or their tags, and the kids learn those tags. And some of them memorize them. They don't need to, but all of that is combined to make a beautiful website with pictures and graphics and clickable links and things of that nature. And the last slide is one of the students on the right is their almost done website. So they have their code in the middle, and just with all those letters and numbers that you see created what is on the right. And this is what our 6th graders did first semester.
Awesome.
Everybody. So while they're talking about all that fun in the classroom, we're always bringing fun, I hope, to the cafeteria. So some of the things we had, we were crazy with Molly, the cow, who visited 3 of our elementary schools, and we have some pictures that we'll show you. It's a whirlwind. Once again, we had 3 different high school students dress up as Molly the cow, and they did a phenomenal job. They were, it has to be a younger student, because the elementary kids, for some reason, they only want to see this cow dance. And so I wasn't even sure what some of these dance moves were, but luckily the high school kids were in tune with all that. So we had a great time there. Some of the SROs got involved. We do, we certainly do. And coming up, we also have like our food fusion program. You'll notice the board members have their bags, and then I put other cards out. You all have a card to. Well, I got a card. You know what? I have one right in there.
I don't. That's okay.
It's in the office. So there is a card there for everyone to get a free meal. So if you would like to stop in at the cafeteria sometime and try something new, by all means do so. We were at South Central a couple weeks ago. Last week.
I enjoyed you.
Thank you. So Mr. Banks was nice enough to come on over and see what we were doing. We had a display for red fruits and vegetables, and thanks to Erin, we were really able to get kids to try radishes. Kids had no idea what a radish was.
You like them?
A lot of them did.
Don't do it. I like
They did. So they were excited to take part in that as well. So we're going to go ahead and she made a PowerPoint presentation of just some things that we've done from the beginning of the year. So at the beginning of the year, we had a poster contest where the kids made a poster about things that they liked for breakfast. Several different schools they did that. Mrs. Claus, another whirlwind, made a huge difference at all the schools, especially to our surprise, the middle school. And that middle picture is from the middle school. A lot of those kids were in line just waiting to talk and hug Mrs. Claus. So they needed that day, I suppose. This was some pictures from Borland Manor and Hills and Wylandville. Ours, of course. Everybody has to get in the picture with Mrs. Claus. We had National Law Enforcement Day for our SROs and all, actually, the police officers from North Strabane, Cecil, and Canonsburg. Proceed through. These are some pictures. The first one, South Central. They made a cake for him. Officer Eccles. This was at the high school. They had a whole layout in the office for everybody to come up. And these are from the different schools. Borland Manor.
Borland Manor actually worked with their PFO also, and their PFO worked with the cafeteria. That's who helped them make the treat bags. They actually had a lunch brought in for them, and they made each individual officer a poster about themselves on that department in grocery.
We have to celebrate everything we can. There's Molly. Yes, it is. We had 3 different students. We had a walk station at Hills. They have a, every month they're talking about a different continent. So they asked the cafeteria to get involved. So their first continent was Asia. We had a walk station. So all the kids could come up and just try some different foods.
A lot of broccoli on that dish.
Too much, huh?
By the way, that was from the summer curriculum writing, social studies K-4.
Right.
Different, and so thank you for getting involved and
Yes.
tying into the themes of the different continents for
They
the
just
world.
had, It was Africa. They just did another taste testing for Africa. That was our South Central presentation last week, where they were devouring at the end all the radishes. go figure. And you know, it was funny too, because a lot of the kids thought that any kind of pepper was going to be hot. They didn't realize that there were sweet peppers. So it was very informative. So then I want to talk about the No Hate, Just Love. So our cafeteria manager at the high school, which I want to introduce you to tonight, really worked with Mrs. Pankowitz and just totally got involved with the whole program. While it's unfortunate that something horrible had to occur to bring out such a good movement, I'm thrilled with it myself. She made up, I don't know, 800 probably, 800 hearts, sticky notes for every student that came through breakfast and lunch that day, and then through the Mac Mart, and actually she was handing them out to random students all about the cafeterias. They all had encouraging words on them. She even got help from fellow servicemen who wrote some in Arabic and Spanish, and we even got the help of our Vietnamese milkman who wrote a couple in Vietnamese. So we were just trying to cover all our bases, so to speak, and get everybody involved. So I want to introduce her. This is Kathleen Hancock. Hi. She continues to work with Mrs. Pankowitz. They changed the menu to be to incorporate more nationalities for that week that we had the No Hate, Just Love movement, and continues to do so as we go along. They work closely together. We've made some other improvements and changes that the kids had asked for with her, and it's going well. Do you have anything to say?
We did the whole week of like a Food of Nations week, and every day we have stuff different all the time up there. If you've ever been up there, it's like a hospital cafeteria. I went to California school district, very small school district, so I had no idea what they offer up there. It's crazy. So the students don't realize how much different we offer from different areas. So just pointing it out to them, they enjoyed it. I did a lot of different signs of, you know, where it came from, little tidbits about it. You know, as they're standing in line, they can read it. They can move on with their day. Maybe later on, they could be like, hey, did you know that ice cream originated from China? You know, that was, I didn't know that, you know what I mean? And it was simple Google stuff, you know, nothing crazy. But we continue to try to work together. Mrs. Pankowitz has come to me a couple times about doing different things. Recently, she asked me about vegan and vegetarian options. We have a ton of options. The students just don't realize what we have for them to take. So simple signs that we make up that we highlight, this is a vegan option or this is a vegetarian option. They enjoy just being able to come in there and go, oh, I can eat this, okay, and go on with their day. And I'm telling you what, that has been a hit because we've been selling out of our bistro boxes and our salads, and you know, they've been coming in more students have been coming in general. So our, you know, lunches are getting bigger and bigger, which is great. And I want to try to continue to do these things to bring in more students to eat there. I take suggestions all the time. They, you know, come up, they could go to any teacher and hopefully bring it up. But I've been doing this for 14 years. I've been in the service, and we do the same thing in the service. We try to promote, you know, what we have different for each individual person. So hopefully we can continue to do this at the high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
I'm Kathy Berry, and I'm representing the Horizon Foundation, and something wonderful that Range has done and the district will benefit from it. I wanted to thank the district for when I was a teacher. The district took time to teach me, which is hard to imagine that the district has been around that long. But we did CPR training in staff development. That was the way that it was done. And so you never think that you're going to need that. And one day I was walking down the hall, and I was on my way to my unassigned period, and what happened was that a young woman ran out of one of the rooms in Wing 3 and said, "Mrs. Berry, we need help." And I went, of course, there, and there was a faculty member who had collapsed on their desk, and the students had actually backed toward the back of the room, and this young woman came out to get me, and I sent her to get Joy Riggle, who was the nurse at the time, and so Joy did the compressions, and I did the breathing for this faculty member. And Mr. Pickett might not even remember this, but he got the ambulance to come. And the big learning on this, and the faculty member survived to teach many more years, and it worked out, very well. And the CPR training that Cam McMillan took the time to give me, that I never thought that I would ever use, really came to me at the end of that episode. At the end of that day, the young lady who had come out into the hall to get me said, "Mrs. Berry, we didn't know what to do." Well, now Range has made it possible that those students, all students, are going to know what to do. And the impact of this is going to be phenomenal, because when you think about it, students that have the CPR training, what will happen with them is they can save a neighbor, they can save their own child, they can be walking across a parking lot and somebody collapses. And the fact that this is going to continue is just amazing. And we at the Horizon Foundation would like to thank Christina and Range, and she will speak to that point, for us to be able to give their $7,000 donation to support the CPR at the high school. So it's not just teachers, it's everyone, and an entire community is going to benefit from that every year. That is, I'm sure if Mrs. Cabina, if some of you can remember Mrs. Cabina, would be here to tell you the mathematical projection of what the impact of what Range has done for us at the Horizon Foundation, and of course for the school district. This is Christina Randall. I'm just so lucky to have as a friend.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here to help announce the excitement behind the CPR training and the grant. Range has been working with the school district and the Horizon Foundation for at least as long as I've been with the company. I've been there for about 5 years. And it's just been wonderful and so rewarding to be a small part, but such a huge fan of the innovative and impactful programming that goes on at the school district, whether it's robots for the special ed kids, or it's 3D printing your prom tickets, or a computer coding and having the kids bring their robots that they made into our office building. It's just been so awesome. And both the school district and the Horizon Foundation are just wonderful about finding projects that align with what's important to us as a company. This program in particular was really a no-brainer for us, and by us I mean our employees. We have a panel of employees from all different departments in the company who review grant requests such as this one, and across the board it was an overwhelmingly enthusiastic, yes, we need to support this program. So we are just beyond excited to help with this. And safety is a core value for Range Resources, obviously. We pride ourselves on the positive working relationships that we have with our local first responders. So we're really excited to see how the school district and the Horizon Foundation are looping in the first responders and having them actually do the training with the students. So thank you again so much for allowing us to be here tonight, and we're excited to see the program roll out. Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Yeah.
To kind of tag team after Grace went about our dyslexia expansion pilot. So we recently began the training with the teachers. Currently our kindergarten and first grade regular education teachers, the reading specialists, the special education teachers, and our speech and language pathologists, as well as administrators are engaging in trainings that are taking place for this dyslexia expansion pilot. So the pilot's going to take place at Borland Manor in Wylandville. We're starting off with kindergarten students and then would expand potentially to the first grade students from there. And we're still in the training phases. We've already underwent quite a few trainings, but there's a lot more that are coming up, so we're excited to continue to move forward in the process. We actually had a meeting today that lasted quite a few hours trying to roll out the next steps. So along with that, from the special ed aspect of it, one of the things that we're hoping to see if we can gain through part of this is by intervening early with these students and with all students that would show any type of deficits. We're interested to see how that could potentially lead to lesser numbers needing to be considered for special education services by addressing that earlier on to the general skills. So an example of that would be one of the things that we're hoping we might be able to bring to fruition. We have to look at obviously the schedules and stuff, but an example would be a speech and language pathologist. If we can somehow find a way to get them to do a half hour in the regular kindergarten classroom to work on articulation, they'd be working on the sounds, but also the sound production, so the way that the mouth forms the different sounds. By pushing into the kindergarten classrooms and spending a little bit of time in there, the teachers are exposed to the skills that the speech and language pathologists are teaching the students. By exposing the teachers, they're allowing more carryover to take place, and they're able to reinforce those skills when the speech and language pathologist is not in there. So by looking at it that way, as well as providing those teachers some training through our speech and language pathologists, that would be an example of how we're hoping to intervene early with some of those kids that might just need a little bit of exposure. And if we gave them that little bit of exposure, they're able to make the progress that they need by having that generalized to other people outside of a certain service. And then hopefully that would end up resulting in potentially less referrals for speech and language. So that's one of the examples of what we're looking to for hopefully to gain through the special ed aspect of it.
And just if you don't mind if we add, so that was 2-3 months ago, you approved receiving $40,000 from PDE. It wasn't officially a grant. So not only do we have $40,000 to be able to spend on this supplies, but all of this training that Mrs. Lee is talking about, not costing us anything out of the $40,000. So it's even more money that we're getting because the training we're getting is 4- and 5-day trainings with certificates that they're going to have in hand when they're done with the training. So it's a wealth of it's a great opportunity for us to be part of the PDE patent dyslexia expansion pilot.
And through that, some of the things that some of the individuals are going to be trained on, they'll be able to then turn around and train other people on it as well. So not only is it a cost savings to have those individuals trained, but then they would be able to train for no cost our other staff as well. The next thing, which I was beat to today, was to discuss Robin. And I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Bikes for joining us. He got to join us as we had a demo for Robin. Robin is our new robot that is you guys have all seen Milo. Robin is the female version. She has red hair and a ponytail, the same space looking suit that Milo has, but different colors. And she joined us at Borland Manor. So the exciting thing is that the students were so excited, but we also have plans to allow them to take little field trips to the alternative schools. So Milo would then visit Borland and Robin could go visit South Central, as well as maybe even do a week-long field trip over to Muse to work with that therapeutic emotional support classroom. We have some ideas of some different social skills sessions that we can do there as well.
Okay,
so,
are we going to be able to do it a while?
well, currently we're focusing where our specialized programming is. So that's South Central, Borland, and
Where the special eds are based.
Yes. So with that, we did have the demo, and the fun thing was, so Robin came 2 days before the demo was scheduled, and she was at Borland Manor. We ended up, I wanted to find a way to set this a little bit apart. So with Milo, it was obviously new and exciting, and so how do we keep this just as new and exciting for these students, but also a way to recatch some attention outside of Canon-Mac, to hopefully, you know, maybe even get another one in the future. So what I decided to do was I talked with Mrs. McConnell at Borland Manor, and we ended up choosing a few students and doing an unboxing video. So we didn't even take Robin out of the box in any way, shape, or form. She started opening it, and I said, no, don't open it. I don't want anyone to catch a peek of it. And then we videotaped it and turned it into a video that we'll watch in 1 second. Now, the fun thing was that at the demo, we had our sales rep come, Mark, who you guys all met at the one other board meeting, was supposed to put on the demo. The students weren't having that. Even though Robin was only at the school for 2 days, they did the entire demo themselves with the speech and language pathologist. So they wanted to show how they were able to make her, like you mentioned, swing a baseball bat. One of their favorites is sneezing. They love to make her sneeze, and then they all love to tell her, God bless you. And that part was really neat. And something to keep in mind, which was pointed out to me, which you might not pick up on just by watching the students interacting with Milo or Robin, is that many of these students are not able to read. So when they're looking at the screen that is on the robot's chest, it is pure memorization of utilizing that screen and where the different buttons are, which also have some icons, but to make this machine work. And it was really neat to know that she was only there for 2 days, and they would go back to the main menu, and then they'd choose action over words, or pick something else. Speak was one of them, and they just touch the button, and then they'd go into all the functions that they could do. And they did all of that with only having worked with her for 2 mornings during morning work, pretty much. So that was pretty neat. We told Mark that if he needs to take us on the road, our kids can help him with his demos in other places as well. But another thing to mention before we get to the video is, so Milo is at South Central. Milo's been being used for the school year, and Milo works on the social skills as well as emotional regulation. So in the upcoming months, I believe next month, I'm not going to tell you much more about this one student, but he would be hopefully coming to talk with you just for a couple short minutes about how he has responded to Milo. And I'll say that he has taken the skills and used them, generalized them past in the individual setting with the robot. I walked in on a random day into the classroom, and he started scripting the different emotional regulation strategies. It was really neat. And he also, we tweeted out, the speech and language pathologist tweeted out his reaction when he got to meet Robin for the first time, because I told him that there was Robin. So immediately he went straight to the calendar and said, okay, what about Friday and mentioned a date. And I said, well, let me talk to them to see what Borland Manor can handle. And he said, no, it has to be Friday. So they ended up surprising him and bringing her over, and it was pretty great. But just to show the parallel, I talked to his mom, and you know, she sees some parallel at home as well. So he'll be able to talk to you a little bit more about that. But it's just neat to see that it is making an impact already.